what my 8th grader last year, Jonathan Mariotti, did is he recreated the original 1980s video of Last Christmas, and he used footage from the school, and then down in the corner of the screen he inserted the original music video. So I'm just going to skip through this a little bit because the beginning is just footage of your teachers dancing, lip syncing, and whatnot. Okay, so here is what was filmed in school. Here is the picture-in-picture effect of the original video so that you can see, the original versus what our students filmed here in school. This was a really cool creative effect because then what they did is as they edited this, they based the timing off of the original video. Okay, so we've seen enough of that. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at some news intros from last year that use these picture-in-picture and side-by-side effects. So we're going to take a look at this one here made by Jonathan Mariotti, last year's 8th grader. And this is a really cool one because not only does he have the school in there, a bunch of different clips that just pop up with the beat of the music, which is really cool. And then he just goes into some standard clips. So that's a neat one. The next one, it is all based off of timing. And it's like the music, the soundtrack that the student chose really drove the way that this video is going to look. So we'll take a look at this one. A lot of people like this one. So we have a transition there. And then clip, clip. Another one, another one. So that's really cool because that really sets the tone for the video and goes with the beats. We're going to close that one up. We'll take a look at the other one. This one was made last year by Evan Means. This is a short and sweet one, but it's really cool because, again, the music really drove this. It really set the tone. Just comes in with the beats. And he staggered them too. And he even did an animation effect also. Now we're going to take a look at the Backstreet Boys video, I Want It That Way. This is the one we made during quarantine last year. There's a lot of side-by-side in this, so that way we're not looking at the same person on screen for 30 seconds. We have one person and then more people start to move in. And this is all done by side-by-side editing. So there's one clip, another clip. Person comes in the middle. This is great if you're filming on your phone this way and you go to put it in there like this. It just makes it again, it better. Really just adds a lot to the video, so you're not looking at just one person on screen, you're looking at different things. Great for like a mashup. All right, more side by side, so again you can see different videos at one time. Looks like now we're going to jump into WeVideo and see what it looks like when you're editing that and how you piece that together. So I'm in the TikTok quarantine challenge video. So here you can just see some standard video at the beginning. Notice you see different layers over here. So you can add those layers by going to the plus sign, and then you choose if you want to do either a video or an audio layer. You can give it a name too. This wasn't named here, but to keep yourself organized, you might want to do that. Now, one thing that comes in handy as you go in and edit, this over here gives you either more or less editing space. So as you drag these dots over to the right, what that does is that makes your preview screen a little bit smaller, but that makes your editing space larger. And that helps a lot when you're going in and you're doing multi-layer editing. If you drag it over to the left, again, preview's bigger, but that doesn't give you a whole lot of room to work with when you're editing. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what these layers actually look like and how you would edit them and move them around according to where you want them to be displayed on your screen. So to find out what layer I'm working with here, I would click on it twice, double click it, and then you're going to notice blue lines. They're real thin on there. But what you can do is that'll take you into the transform option, and then you can just drag it down, and then that's how you can resize it. And likewise, you can pick it up and move it. You can show a grid, which comes in handy. That grid just kind of helps you with your placement. That'll probably help in the next examples that I'm going to show you. So for right now, I'm just going to turn that off. And then if you just go down to save changes, that locks in place what you just did. And again, just to move those around, you would double click on it. That's how you could pick that up. Now notice it's sliding underneath of these layers, but that's because back in our editor, it was the bottom layer. So that's how that works. Now, just to show you kind of how to start from scratch with that, because I already had these here, I'm going to show you how to put like 4 corners or videos all over 4 corners of the screen. So I'm going to scroll around until I find some random footage that I like. I'm going to take this one right here and drop it in video 5. I'm going to take this video here, drop it right right underneath. Notice I want them all to start at the same time, and I'm going to want them to end at the same time too, but I have to edit those down a little bit. And let's see, another clip I'm going to take. It's kind of random. I'm going to take this one here. Okay. So again, we would want those to be on screen the same amount of time. So I'm going to drag that down to the length of my shortest clip. That way they are all even. I gave myself plenty of editing space, meaning I'm kind of dragged over all the way to the right. If I drag it over to the left, I lose editing space. I gain preview space. So, okay, what I'm going to do is go ahead and play that.
What's your favorite?
Now, what's happening is this video is taking over and it's burying these videos. So we got to go in and do that scaling. So to scale it, you double click on it. You go like this, and that's where those grid lines really come in handy, because what you could do then is use those grid lines to kind of center that up and put that where you want it to go. Save the changes. Now we're going to take this layer underneath, double click. We're going to scroll it down. Show grid again. That helps you in really determining that the size and the placement is even for everything. So I'm going to do that for all these clips. Scale it down. Show the grid. So every time you click show grid, it really only pertains to that particular clip that you are on. That's why I have to keep turning it on for each one. Scale it down, or actually I like doing this better. Drag it where I want it to go, except again, you want it to be about the same size. Okay, another thing you're going to want to make sure is that you have the volume down on all of those clips, because remember, you're putting a soundtrack, you're putting music in your video, so you're not going to be hearing what's there. So let's play it. Okay, now it's muted. So that might be on screen a little bit too long, but anyway, we could cut that down if we wanted to. Here's something else that you can do. You could take your stock media and search for a cool animated background. So I'm just going to type in blue background. I feel like I always type in blue background, but you can really search for pretty much anything that you want. Then you can narrow down your search to be just videos so that you're only getting an animated image and not just like a still image. So we've got all kinds of cool things here. You pick something that you like. I like this one. I'm going to drop that down here so it's kind of like my base. And then when I hit spacebar to play, it's really cool because these videos are now coming up on that animated background. So what I'm going to want to do, I'm going to pick myself up and move me here. I'm going to take that background and shorten it so we've got just that going on. Now, if you want to do some advanced things like fades and whatnot, I'm going to zoom in for that. And I'm going to click on my layer, and I'm going to go to my second marker over here that's called your opacity options, and then I'm going to put like a point on there to where my video is going to fade in. So I have a fade in happening here. Let's watch it and see what it looks like. It fades in. So I want that point to be the same place on all of my videos. So I'm going to add that point in pretty much the same spot, drag it down so it goes like a fade in, or fade up. So those first two videos, they faded. These are just some really cool options that you guys have to work with that are built into WeVideo that really make your video just more dynamic and more entertaining to watch. There's more to it. Again, if you're doing your fade-ins, you got to add a fade-in point. Notice I almost forgot to do that there. Okay, I'm going to move myself out of the way here. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, so they faded in, which is really sweet. Now, again, that's on screen a bit long, so, I mean, you can always shorten that up. Just some cool effects that you guys can do. Okay, so now that I showed you guys some cool things with, like, the video and video effects where you have your multi-layer videos, you can head back into your news intro. I'm going to jump into the one that I did in my last video that I already started here, and I have those cool fade effects. But then again, we can combine that with the things that we just learned where we have that multi-layer editing. So if you want to do that multi-layer, like with the four corners or, you know, whatever you want, again, that's where you go over to your add new video track and add your tracks accordingly. Now, one little tip that will really come in handy, if your editing space is not looking like very zoomed out, like you're not seeing the big picture of it, Control plus and Control minus will take care of that. So like I just did Control plus, that looks horrible. But if you do Control minus, that will zoom you out kind of far so that you can see you have more editing space. Combine that with doing your plus and minus sign, that helps also. So what I'm going to do real quickly here is show you a cool thing that you can do with your stock footage. Stock footage is great. I know I just talked about it a few minutes ago, but stock footage allows you to kind of have like a built-in Google search, although it's not Google. It's just like copyright-free images, videos, backgrounds, you name it. So for this project, you might want to search for a background. I'm going to just type in colorful background, and then I'm going to narrow that search back to videos, and then you're going to see all these really cool free animated videos that you can plug in there. I'm going to use this one here, for example. Maybe you want that at the beginning of your video. So I'm going to put that over here at the beginning. That's kind of like my base. Then maybe you want your Falcon logo that you designed, that PNG you made a couple assignments ago. You might as well put that in. So you can go to My Media to import that, and you would browse the select and find that PNG file on your Chromebook. You might have to re-download it if you have to, but again, that's why we turned everything into a PNG before. So I'm going to use this one here that Garrett made. And then once it imports, I'm going to drag it down. So there it is. But you can do something else with that too. You can make that animate, which is really sweet. So I'm going to zoom into that. I'm going to double click on it. And then when you double click on it, by default, it takes you to transform, where you transform the size. Again, we just did that a few minutes ago in our videos. But now what we're going to do is play around with some of these other options. Like this one right here is the animation. You could do a start animation and an end animation. Start would be what size it's going to be on your screen, the placement on screen. End animation is where it's going to stop. So I might have it zoom in like that. I'm going to click on Save Changes and go back and play that. So there it is animating, which looks pretty cool. Now you can also take this background that you just grabbed from stock footage, and you can recolor that because maybe you don't want like the hot pinks, purples, or whatever. So if you double click on it, and again, it takes you back to those same tools you were at before when you did your animation. But over here, this tab does colorization. So you could play around with like your brightness, just kind of toggle with all of those. Saturation just makes it like really overly colorful or really dull, depending on how you want it. Hue is a word for like your colorization, your changing of the color of it. So I'm going to make that like a nice deep blue, play around with the temperature, maybe play around with the tint. I'm going to hit play, see what that does. You can do that to anything. You can do that to these videos. You can do that to a still image like this Falcon. I'm actually going to go in and play around with that a little bit too and colorize that a bit, just to kind of switch things up. All right. Now the other thing is my music. I noticed my music doesn't start till later, and actually I kind of want to cut that a little bit. Maybe I want my music to start with my Falcon intro, so I would do that. It's kind of rough right now, like I got this going on, so we could always shorten that up. Again, the power of editing lets you determine what you want this to look like depending on your vision, your ideas with it. Yeah, I'm not liking this at all, actually. So I'm going to shorten it up a little bit more. But just some cool things for you to play around with now that you know all these tools and now that you know all these features. I'm actually going to drag that over a little bit, maybe start it here. So it kind of had a rough transition. Maybe what I'll do is drop that here in this layer. That way, this background kind of connects to that transition. See what it looks like now. Not bad, but it needs a little bit of work. So like you just saw, the beginning of this was kind of rough, but maybe you can smoothen it up with a little bit of fade options, that opacity. So as you can see, I'm zooming in on that, and what I'm going to do is work with my background layer, and when I click on it, I'm going to go to my opacity options, and then that allows you to add that fade in point. So I'm going to click on my green line just to add a fade in point, drop it down because it's going to start at 0 and then work its way up. And then I'll probably want to do the same thing with the Falcon logo right above it. So what I'm going to do is just find a point to fade that in. Again, it starts at 0. It works its way up. So again, you don't know what it looks like until you try it. So I'm going to see what this looks like. I'm going to fade it all the way in, like from 0 to the end. So it's going to be like a really gradual slow fade. Okay, so that's kind of cool, actually. It works with the transition and everything. Again, that is the kind of stuff that you can do now that you know how to do it, that you can explore in making your intro really come together with all kinds of cool effects. My advice to you is don't just settle on the first things that you try. Watch it. Keep messing with this. Spend some time.